New severe thunderstorm warning for Kenosha, Racine, and the rest of Walworth until 1:15. So once again, just taking radar off here so you get a better idea of all of the warnings that are in place. They still extend from Sheboygan to Walworth as well as Kenosha County. Those in the severe thunderstorm warnings, Rob, need to know that tornadoes are still a possibility.
Tornadoes are still a possibility with this, and even if we don't see a tornado warning in your area, you will want to take these straight line winds very seriously because they can cause similar damage, sometimes even more excessive damage, depending on whether or not we see something like a downburst or a microburst. But either way, whether you're in the tornado warning or the severe thunderstorm warning, I want you to take cover. I want you to find a safe space right now. I want you to communicate to your family as soon as you get to your safe space that they should do the same. As Stephanie was pointing out, this is indeed the lunch hour for a lot of folks. And, you know, if you've been involved in your work and you maybe haven't gotten a chance to get the push alerts through our Storm Center app, you might be thinking, oh, I'm going to head out and grab a bite to eat. Now is not the time. Wait, give this another hour or so and things should settle down. And we will be with you through that entire stretch. I've been here 17 years, Stephanie. I don't know that we've ever seen the geographic coverage that we're seeing right now with this kind of extensive tornado warning and watches. This covers, if you go back to the warning map, if you can there, it covers a huge part of our viewing area, whether it's, you know, Sheboygan's southeast corner all the way down to Racine and Kenosha. But look at all the coverage here for the tornado warnings themselves. This is almost all of Waukesha County right now, a good portion of southern Ozaukee County, and a good chunk, a good quarter of Walworth County is currently under a tornado warning, and it certainly hasn't been very common in our area to see that kind of geographic coverage for a tornado warning. So this is a very serious situation, and as I speak, getting more information in.
New warning, tornado warning for Milwaukee County. This line clearly is not showing any signs of weakening.
Right.
Oh, and I apologize. That is my emergency alert on my phone.
But that's good. I hope you're hearing a similar emergency alert on your phone. I hope you have what it takes to stay safe on your personal items.
All right, Waukesha, heads up. There is a tornado debris signature just west of the city.
Okay, so there you go.
So that is
Waukesha
your
right there.
alert to get in your safe spot.
Right, so this is the debris tracker that Stephanie was bringing up earlier, and it's what we've been talking about with these tornado debris signatures. So the signature essentially is just the mark, the signature that it makes on the radar. And this is exactly what we're looking at here. And this, of course, goes right across several major highways, as well as, of course, huge, very heavily populated portions of our viewing area. Waukesha, if you are listening to us right now, take cover. We want you to go to your safe space. Stephanie, I'm going to get that new update there. If you can bring folks up to speed on what that means, that'd be great.
Right, absolutely. So the latest from the National Weather Service, and I believe this is kind of what we're looking at right here, east side of Waukesha, tornado debris signature. And so this is a tool that we look at to, number one, is see if a tornado is potentially producing damage. Tornado wind, as we know, can loft debris up in the air, and this is a product that can look at that and give us an idea of if a tornado is on the ground. And that is what we have been watching with this line pretty much for the past hour. And so right now we are looking at the east side of Waukesha, or maybe just east of the city itself, for that potential.
And I just got another update in from the National Weather Service. This is actually down in Walworth County, and this is an observed rotation and condensation funnel that's actually in contact with the ground, and that is just south of Highway 12 and Highway 59. That's near Whitewater in Walworth. So if you are in that area or anywhere east or southeast of that area, again, you want to take cover. If you have friends or family in that area, make sure they are aware. Reach out to them, send them a quick text. Make sure they are finding their safe space in that interior room away from windows, because this again is now observed meaning by the human eye, rotation and a funnel that is in contact with the ground, again, just south of 12 and 59. So they were looking at that stretch of 43, and we're talking about how incredibly challenging it would be to be driving on that right now. But for certainly anyone in this area, you are likely seeing incredibly strong wind gusts right now, and will likely be observing some significant damage, if not at the moment, certainly in very short order. Look at this stretch here. Look at this, going right down through Waukesha, all the way across Walworth County. And this is an intense line right there that has as Steph was just pointing out, shown no sign of weakening. In fact, Stephanie, if anything, this has held its own and somewhat strengthened.
It absolutely has, especially with the fact that we are still seeing debris signatures in different areas. But again, watching very closely Waukesha as well as Walworth County. It looks like we have a couple new warnings. Tornado on the ground in Burlington. That is the latest. Folks, this is clearly a very powerful line. If you are in Waukesha, Milwaukee, Walworth, Racine, or Kenosha County, right now, you need to get in your safe spot. Latest from the National Weather Service is that there is a tornado on the ground in Burlington. So that new tornado warning as well extended into Kenosha as well as Racine counties, whereas before you guys were under that severe thunderstorm warning, so now you are included in that. I want to put velocity up, and let's look to see if we have any specific areas.
Right. Obviously, we're seeing quite a bit in the way of significant wind speed with this. Again, anything in that yellow, bright yellow, is easily in the 55, 65 mile per hour range, and that stretches right along that highway, essentially. And yet, obviously, if you're in your home, I want you to take care. I want you to find that lowest level, get away from windows. If you are out on the roadways, perhaps, you're finding this out because of the push alerts and you're now maybe perhaps tuning in, or if you have friends or family that are out driving, make sure they know to get off the road. Find the nearest substantial structure, whether that's a gas station or a way station, whatever it might be, to get out of this. You don't want to try to ride this out or run away from this. It's something you need to actually take shelter for immediately if you're in a vehicle or if you're outside. Find the nearest substantial structure and take cover immediately in those areas. All right, so Stephanie's brought up the velocity and wind speed map yet again. And you know what? I'm just going to actually kind of tag out and let her take over at the green screen here. Partly to give my voice a break and also to get the latest ping that just went off.
I'll grab the paper and we'll go from there. Oh, when it prints out. Right. I just wanted to zoom this in a little bit more just to go over a few cities first and foremost. New Berlin, we need to remember that area of rotation was just off towards the west of you a short time ago. So New Berlin and areas towards the east need to be aware that that strong part of this line is moving in as we speak. Once again, nothing terribly evident on our velocity scans, but there is still rotation within this line in parts of Waukesha, Walworth, and now western Racine County. As we know, there was that confirmed tornado on the ground in Burlington or near the Burlington area. So number one, we could potentially have numerous tornadoes on the ground right now. They will be quick. You will not see them. It is pouring in and around this line, even in the spots that are not included in tornado warnings right now. Maybe you're included in a severe thunderstorm warning. Tornadoes are still a possibility within this entire line, so even towards the north. You need to get to your safe spot, especially if you're in that tornado warning, but like I just mentioned, even if you're in the severe thunderstorm warnings, I would be in your safe spot anyway. Your basement is going to be the best spot in your home. If you don't have a basement, the innermost part of your home is going to be the best. Sometimes the bathroom is still not the best if there is a window in there in your main level. So if you have a hallway that's a little more enclosed, a closet that's a little more enclosed, that would be better than a bathroom with a window. So still, you want to be in the innermost part of your home, no windows, put lots of walls surrounding you. But if you have a basement, that is going to be the best spot to be when a tornado is threatening your home or threatening your area. So don't waste any more time. Get to your safe spot right now. We have a lot of tornado warnings. We've been talking for at least the past hour, and there have been numerous touchdowns in parts of Waukesha as well as Walworth County. And this line is now nearing parts of Milwaukee County. Not quite here yet, but on its way. So southern Ozaukee County, Milwaukee County, all of Racine and Kenosha County now included in tornado warnings. And we are taking this very seriously because, as I just mentioned, we have had numerous touchdowns in counties just off towards the west, Walworth specifically, into parts of Waukesha as well.
So
Rob?
just getting it from Tim over the National Weather Service there, saying there's maybe still some rotation happening in far southern Ozaukee County.
Okay.
So they're going to keep the tornado warning going for those areas. So if you are listening to us or following this, you need to continue to remain in your shelter. Even as things seem to be calming down in southern Ozaukee County, you want to give yourself the ability to, of course, be safe until the all clear. So don't judge this for yourself. Let the experts tell you when things will be safe. They will drop the warning when they feel that is true. Now, Steph, they were also saying there are some tornado debris signatures near Butler,
Okay.
which is in kind of right on the county line there, Waukesha and Milwaukee County line.
Right as this line is moving in.
Right,
Yep.
exactly. And another one in New Berlin.
Okay, New Berlin, which once again is that same concentrated spot in parts of east central and southeast parts of Waukesha County. In fact, I'm looking out on our weather deck and it's starting to look a little messy near us as well, as that
Very
line is
dark.
getting close to northern Milwaukee County as well. But again, southern Ozaukee County, I know your box is pretty small on our map, but you are also included in a tornado warning right now. So places like Mequon, get to your safe space. And once again, that warning extends through Milwaukee as well as Racine and Kenosha County. You can still see those high wind signatures showing up on our velocity scan, especially now moving into northwestern parts of Racine County and still covering a good chunk of southern parts of Waukesha County. We are seeing some of these yellows. That is indicating wind gusts likely exceeding 50 miles per hour. In fact, this one about 55 miles per hour. So at the very least, as this line rolls through, you are going to be dealing with very strong gusty wind. And even parts of Milwaukee County, again, parts of Ozaukee County, you're still going to see that strong wind, but we're also eyeing that potential for these spin-up tornadoes as this line makes its way off towards the east. We've been watching this as it started in our far western communities. It started just after 11 with a tornado debris signature south of Watertown, and then it just continued to push eastward, still producing these tornado debris signatures, which we look at as meteorologists as a sign that there is a tornado on the ground, lofting debris up in the air. That is a product that we can look at for that information. So here's a zoomed in view. You can see Butler here, Brookfield towards the south. Again, these are the areas that we are still watching for that potential rotation as this quick moving line of storms makes its way towards the east. Now behind this line, you're also still going to be dealing with a soaking rainfall. It's not going to be a quick line moving through and then you're done. You're still going to see some rain after this is gone. But you can now see the strongest part of this line extending from southern parts of Ozaukee County into extreme northwest Milwaukee County, eastern Waukesha, and then down still through the Lake Geneva area. I know it's your lunch hour. Maybe you're thinking about heading out for lunch. If you are in these lakeshore communities or certainly any county under tornado warning, stay put. Stay in your safe place. I know I just recently saw on social media, we have coworkers here whose kids are sheltering at school right now. I'm sure many are doing the same thing. Hopefully in your workplace, you have that tornado plan and know where to shelter. If you don't, now's a good opportunity to go over that or make a plan, certainly after the event too. But once again, still eyeing parts of eastern Waukesha County. And Rob, let's zoom in on northern Milwaukee County because this really is inching closer to the area.
Right, and as we do that, I got a couple things coming in here again. National Weather Service reporting getting damage reports out by Whitewater. We talked about that earlier. Some security camera footage may have caught some of this as well, so it'll be interesting to follow up on that a little later on and see what is actually going on. But now, as Stephanie's pointing out, look at northern Milwaukee County, just right on the county line there.
Right. In fact, I wonder, directors, producers, anyone's back there, if you have access to our brown deer camera, let me know if you see anything or any of our Milwaukee cams. I know it's still off towards the west. Working on it. Awesome. Thank you guys. If you see anything, just just put it up on the screen or any of our DOT cams. Any news from Southern Ozaukee County? It looks like that might be making its way.
Looks like it's improving, but the last I heard, they were talking about it still showing the potential, so they're going to
Okay.
leave the warning in place. In fact, just now, they have continued the tornado warning. They have observed hail now in
Okay.
the Milwaukee area of 3/4 inch hail.
Okay, and that's probably another factor we haven't really been focusing on. But in addition to the possibility of tornadoes, at least 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts will be a possibility with this line as it moves through, and hail up to about 3/4 of an inch. All right, this is our Milwaukee camera, our city center camera. Looks like maybe a shelf cloud off towards the west as this storm really is knocking on our doorstep here. Here's another camera zoomed in again on what I believe is that shelf cloud as the line makes its way on through. Another view. So it's moving in Milwaukee Metro, and all of Milwaukee County will be impacted by this line. And I know we always say it weakens, or we don't always say, but we hear it weakens as it gets to the lake. That is not always what happens.
Right.
This line is not showing signs of weakening. All
Common
right.
weather myth, because of course, people think that the lake is going to provide that cooling effect to undercut the
Right.
potential of the storm. Obviously, on a day like today, where it's not exactly that sweltering heat of the summer or that huge, change up of seasons of the spring, it's a great example of how it doesn't necessarily require that to continue to be a strong storm. Steph,
Right.
there's our brown deer camera that we control here on the station.
And I believe this is pointing off towards the west. So certainly some low-lying clouds out there. Rain is falling. That line, again, closing in. So we'll just have to really keep an eye on these cameras here as this line continues to move in. So once again, producers, directors, if you see anything, just pop it up on screen. The wind is really picking up at our station. And you know what? We have a manager in here right now. If there's a tornado warning put into place for specifically northern Milwaukee County, we need to put it into place for our workplace as well. So
That's right.
something to be
It's a good
aware
point.
of.
We sometimes feel like we're in our own little magic media bubble here, but it is important to point out that we indeed do have our own severe weather protocol here at Fox 6. We know where our tornado shelters are. Hopefully you have followed our example and, of course, created your own tornado shelter and tornado plan. Today is a day that you need to use that. It's why all the planning took place. It's why we did the planning here in the building. I was just handed this by one of our managers. So yeah, we have some large tree damage going on right now. In fact, there's a large tree down just kind of west-northwest of Waukesha. It's about a 1.5 foot diameter. That is a large tree limb that is down, and I don't think this is the last that we're going to be hearing about significant storm damage. So again, if you are in any of the warning areas, even some of the severe thunderstorm warning areas, I want you to go to your safe space right now, because we are seeing a lot of these quickly jump to that tornado warning, and even straight line wind gusts can be very damaging. As we talked about earlier, that is the most interior room in your home away from windows, and you want to start thinking vertically as well. So if you can get into a stairwell, that's fantastic, because structurally in the vertical, a stairwell is very strong, very sturdy. It's built to hold extra weight. Exterior rooms, even bathrooms, sometimes might have something above, like another bathtub, that can cause problems if it comes down through the floorway. So a stairwell is your best spot on that lowest level. If you have a basement, great. If not, find that lowest level in the interior away from windows. And if you are in your safe space and you still have your cell phone, of course, you can continue to communicate and watch us and reach out to your friends and family who may not have that as well. All right, so we do have our velocity and wind speed map up here, and this is showing some of these strong winds across our area. We're getting a variety of warnings popping up across our different cell phones in the studio here, so if you're hearing some strange noises in the background, we apologize, but it is a very active situation. Now, Stephanie is just zooming in on this because, of course, right there, look at the intensity of that wind there. These bright yellows, these almost approaching white reflections here are indicating some very strong winds. Now, this is our Esterbrook camera. Look at this low cloud, Stephanie. This is
Wow.
incredible right now.
That's a great image.
Great shot. I'm just going to step out and let it kind of talk for itself.
And I'm going to zoom in on velocity a little bit more. Let's see. Greenfield, an area of concern right now. This is a telling sign right here. Again, this is our Esterbrook Tower Cam of this line moving into Milwaukee right now. Milwaukee County and area southward, you need to be in your safe space right now. That tornado warning is in effect. and it is not looking great in Milwaukee at the
This
moment.
is very dark, very low cloud, so it's something we'll continue to watch. We'll keep the camera rolling on this as well. And I was just talking to one of our news managers, and we have our own Brett Lemoyne, who is out in the Waukesha area right now. He's at the Waukesha Courthouse for today, and we're working on getting him on the air to see what he can provide as far as an actual on-the-ground, eyes-on situation. And look at how this is developing, even just as I'm talking, Stephanie.
Absolutely. In fact, let me go back to radar. Well, we can keep on this picture. I'm going to look at radar off screen, just get a better idea of how quickly the storm is moving into Milwaukee. Okay, going back to radar, awesome. We'll go back to that image
look at
as
this line.
necessary.
This is the line right here, and of course the Estabrook camera's right there, but it's looking toward the storm. And that line is showing that intensity right through Milwaukee County now, and then farther to the southeast corner of Waukesha County, and then continuing down into portions of western Racine. And this is the pocket we're focused on right now. You know, Southern Ozaki seems to be seeing some improvement. I do not want you to leave your safe spot just yet. Don't do that until we're definitely in the all clear in South Milwaukee County. But look at this, all of Milwaukee County now watching for this. Now, if you're watching us here in southeastern Milwaukee County, you're probably wondering what's going on. It's a little windy, it's a little bit of rain, but at the moment, not too bad. But this is the line that is moving very quickly. In about an hour, it moved from northwest of Dodge County, way off the map here, all the way down into Waukesha County, and it is continuing to move pretty briskly without really losing much in the way of step, if you will, or intensity. Stephanie, if you could bring back up the debris tracker.
Sure.
This is fascinating technology in a way. It's also fairly basic technology, right? It's radar. Radar pings off of objects in the air and lets us know where rain is, where snow is, where hail is, right? And in this case, it's letting us know where debris may be flying. And wow, we are really getting a good signature right there. That has likely caught the eye of the National Weather Service. It certainly caught my eye immediately.
Yeah, just east of Greenfield now.
Right, so you're seeing this is what, just kind of west of, 241 right there,
Correct.
and then just kind of east of Greenfield, that intersection right now, there appears to be quite a bit of debris in the air right at the moment as you get to that intersection. So that 41, 16, Steph? I need new glasses apparently, but this
36,
is definitely intense right here. You're seeing it, look at this. This is an incredible
So this is
image.
about to pass over Loomis. Part of that is over 41 right now, and that's tracking east. So, next up is going to be that major 94-43.
Right. So you're a few minutes away from this. And again, if you are listening to us, sort of perhaps through the app or whatever case, or if you know your friend or family member is on the road in that area right now, you need to communicate to them, and I need to communicate to you that you do not want to stay on the road. Don't think you can outdrive this. All right. Trained storm tractors sometimes are challenged by outdriving severe weather, so don't try that. Find the nearest substantial shelter and get off the road. Get in from the outside and do be safe. We do not want to be reporting on any unnecessary injury, death, damage from this system that could be avoided by you simply taking the safe route, which is to get off the road, get inside, and find that safe spot. Now, I heard somebody whisper in my ear that we're going to go, here we go.
All right,
yeah, we're going to go live.
yep.
Steph, look at how that cloud has developed.
Exactly. And correct me if I'm wrong, is this pointing south now?
Our directors would know better than us. It's kind of hard to tell.
They would, yeah. Clearly, I mean, this line is moving through. The rain is very heavy. The latest front south.
It is.
Okay, thank you. And that rotation, I'm going to have you guys actually go back to our correlation coefficient because this is actually getting stronger. So let's see. Let's zoom in here. So this is what we're looking at for potential debris.
Look at that huge
From a
area.
tornado.
I mean, that is a giant stretch right there.
It is, in fact, you know what? I just got a message from our web director who is in this area. Okay, so I'm hearing a couple of things. Tornado sirens in downtown Milwaukee, as they should be going off. Cudahy, you're going to be in this next. Our web director, who I believe is in this area, Highway 241. Oh, 27.3. He's just
We also have
explaining
reporter
something
Brett
to me.
Lemoyne, who has dialed in. We're going to try to talk to him very shortly. He was in Waukesha as this was coming through at the Waukesha County Courthouse, so we'll get in touch with him shortly. But Stephanie, tell us what we're looking at there.
This is passing right over 94 at the moment. Do we have any DOT cams in this area to look at? I know that might take a while, but once again, this is debris being lofted in the air by a likely tornado. And actually, an interesting fact, the reason why we can actually see a lot of debris right now, the National Weather Service is thinking it's a lot of the leaves coming off of the trees, which is helpful possible, but
if that's the case, then we're in good shape. But we're not
Right.
going to assume that right now.
Right, absolutely. But one of the reasons why it may be just a little bit clearer than normal. But regardless, okay, this is tracking off towards the east. So Cudahy, I mean, the airport, this is clearly a strong storm, a strong part of that line with a potential tornado that is going to be moving in your direction. But at the moment, it is over a major interstate. I know, Rob, that's really tricky if you're traveling or if you know anybody traveling, but
Obviously, yeah, get off the road to the
Right.
first substantial shelter that you can find. And National Weather Service, again, just chiming in that the Greenfield tornado that was observed there, they're estimating that should be toward the Cudahy area in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
As we can tell here.
And that was like 3 minutes ago that was sent out, so we're now down to more like 8 to 12 minutes. But definitely
Here's
take
one
care.
Here's
All
one of our
right.
DOT cams. It looks like this is Locust Street. Looking okay right now. But something to obviously watch as this line continues to move off towards the east. Here's that Estabrook Tower cam. Once again, you can see those low-lying clouds just moving very quickly. This line is moving very quickly as it continues to push eastward. And I'm hearing that we have our reporter, Brett Lemoyne, if we want to check in with him real quick.
That's right. We have Brett. Brett, you were out. You are currently out in the Waukesha area at the courthouse. Can you tell us what you saw as this came through your area?
Yeah, well, just another bizarre day here in the Darrell Brooks trial. Rob and Stephanie have been covering the Darrell Brooks trial. We're at the Waukesha County Courthouse. About 11:30 this morning, sirens went off internally here in the building. As I look out into the hallway, all of the employees here at the courthouse are still on the basement level, taking shelter just as a precaution. But when this all went down, Darrell Brooks was cross-examining one of the witnesses on the stand. Judge Jennifer Doro interrupted him and immediately told everyone that they were breaking for lunch because of a tornado warning. So it's unclear how that's going to affect the trial for the rest of the day here, but certainly lots of precautions at the courthouse. I'm looking out the window right now, and it appears to be actually the skies look rather bright for this hour.
I would imagine
but
you've
it
seen
was
some
dark.
pretty rapid change. Not to interrupt you there, Brett. Thank you so much for your update, and we'll be touching back in with you, of course, if we get some more information. The great example of people being able to take precautions in a public space. And thank you very much, Brett, for joining us. I want to jump in here though, because Stephanie and I both just received a warning that that tornado has been observed. I believe, if I read that correctly, Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, in Brown Deer, which of course is the home of the station. So that's Brown Deer around the county line.
Right.
So anyone within the sound of my voice in the Brown Deer area, if you haven't already, you definitely need to be taking your shelter. And that includes people in our own building. So
Correct.
hopefully we have managers right now doing that. Only essential personnel should stay where they need to stay. We're very lucky that our weather office is located in a relatively safe spot so that we can continue to bring you the information that you need. But everybody else within our own building needs to now move to their tornado shelters so that we can maintain, what we do here to keep you safe. Brown Deer, of course, as Steph was just pointing in there, the last spot of a tornado in the area. And look at the velocity report and the wind speed reports here. All of this bright yellow is 55, 65 miles an hour. And whether that's rotating or straight line, it is causing damage. And even as I look out the window, which is actually behind the camera that I'm looking at right now, I can see significant wind gusts ongoing. What you were saying before about the debris signature is pretty interesting, Stephanie, about the leaves causing some additional grief.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, it's obviously a time of the year where leaves are falling off the trees anyway, but when we look at this, it is, just to put it plainly, it shows us where any type of debris could be lofted in the air by a tornado, and we know that the winds are certainly strong enough, but that could just be one of the reasons why it looks a little clearer on this product right now.
It's putting more things in the air, right?
Right, absolutely. As Rob mentioned, it's hopefully just leaves, but
Right.
you know,
I would
something
rather
we
you
have to
assume
watch.
that it is much more significant than that. Flying debris is one of the most damaging things when it comes to, in particular, human health and safety when it's severe weather. It's an old saying, and it might sound a little trite, but it's not that the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing, right? A strong wind, it's just wind, can be survivable, but a strong wind that is blowing 2x4s, construction material, tree limbs down is incredibly dangerous. Glass shards, that's why we tell you to get in away from windows. So.
And I'm going to push this south a little bit. Sorry to cut you off,
No,
Rob.
that's all right.
Because there is now another signature in parts of
go.
Racine County. In fact, places like Franksville, be on the lookout. It looks like that signature is west of you, but especially Yorkville, just off towards the east of you. Ives Grove, something to just be aware of. Even Caledonia,
Right.
I know you're supposed to north a bit more, but there are still other little pockets of potential rotation within this line.
Right, and whether these are little spin-ups within the more significant system, or whether this is simply straight line winds, creating a lot of debris. I mean, it's more common to see it with tornadic situations because, of course, it lifts that debris up into the air where the radar can catch it. But it's not unheard of for straight line winds to create that as well. What we tend to look for are these very bright patches here because leaves, unless you're getting a lot of leaves all at once, aren't going to give you those much brighter indicators here on the debris tracker that we are seeing right now. In fact, Steph, if you could zoom in on that southeast corner that we were
Right,
talking
because
about.
this is moving right over Cudahy now.
Right, and right on time as we were talking about the
South
tracking
Milwaukee.
there. And you see that there is definitely some debris being picked up. Let's hope that this is being enhanced by the fall leaves. That would be a
Right.
wonderful story to be able to
Well,
tell
you can
after
see,
this.
I mean, it looks like the strongest part just over College. That is a very well-traveled stretch of roadway.
Right.
Lake Drive, you can still see some brighter colors.
Just kind of east of the Oak Creek Parkway and getting right out to the lakeshore now. So the good news is because of the speed of this, we are kind of starting to wind things down a little bit farther north and west. But Stephanie, if we go out to the bigger picture again, as you'll be able to show everyone, we still have a lot to go through before this settles down. Look at this debris signature popping up in
Oh,
the
sorry,
southern
Rob.
portion. That's okay. Look at the southern portion of this line here. Look at that. And as you were saying earlier, Stephanie, that's the portion of the line that we tend to watch very closely.
We do. The southernmost part of the storm can sometimes produce these quick spin ups. There's actually a term for it. But in particular, there have still been, central parts of this line that have been just as strong. But you've seen a lot of the tornado warnings in our southernmost counties, more so for the southern edge of this line. But there are still active tornado warnings. We've got southern Milwaukee County. I'll take radar off of here for you. Southern Milwaukee County, parts of Racine, as well as Kenosha County. So this line is still going strong, moving through our southern lakeshore communities. Looks like it's just past the Lake Geneva area, covering western and central parts of Racine County. And as far as Kenosha County goes, it's almost just moving into your western portions of your county. So lakeshore community in Kenosha County, you may still have a little bit of time, but now is the time to act. As we have seen through the past hour, almost 2 hours, this has produced numerous little areas of rotation, numerous tornado touchdowns. Even if they're brief, they do still cause damage. So those under those tornado warnings, southern Milwaukee County, all of Racine, all of Kenosha County, stay in your safe spot until this is completely out of the area. Rob, if you can, let's actually focus in on this line and do a track for the rest of Racine and Kenosha County, just to give them an idea of how quickly this is actually moving. Again, now's the time to prepare because this is moving very quickly. We've got Caledonia on there within really the next couple of minutes. And remember, there was still that debris signature showing up just south of Caledonia. So take this line seriously. Kenosha, potentially just after about 1 o'clock. And then some areas towards the south. You can see Waukegan, Warren. But Antioch, kind of right on the border there. A little bit earlier, maybe closer to about 12:50. But all of Racine, Kenosha County, this will continue to track eastward, and it does still hold the potential to produce tornadoes, as well as at least 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, hail up to 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and it is under a warning for a reason. We have had numerous reports of tornadoes on the ground across parts of southeast Wisconsin. Here's a more specific track for you. Sommer's in there, about 12:53. Remember, this is pretty much at this point the strongest part of this line now, just west of Franksville or moving into Franksville in Racine County, closer to the Union Grove area as well. So anyone close to this area of, we'll just call her darker red, needs to be in your safe spot as this continues to push eastward. Now off towards the west too, this isn't going to be a quick thunderstorm and then you're done. You're still going to have a pretty soaking rain after this line makes its way through. So even be careful. Don't go outside right after your warning expires. Still stay in your safe spot, because at the very least you're still going to be dealing with a very soaking rain, and you don't know what type of damage you're going to be seeing as you head outside. This is kind of a cool view, more of like a 3D view looking at thunderstorm heights. The taller these storms get, it really indicates how strong they are. So this, does put it into perspective that these storms are still strong enough. They may not be the tallest storms we've ever seen.
In fact, I'm kind of surprised by
right, exactly.
the
Small
shallowness
but
of them.
Small but mighty,
Yeah.
maybe. But again, it just goes to show that there is still enough within this line to produce these quick spin-up tornadoes, which we have seen for the past hour to 2 hours. But the strongest part of this line, again, now moving through Racine and Kenosha County. Here's our velocity scan. We look at this for how strong winds are, as well as if there is rotation within a thunderstorm. So right now, we're really just looking at all of these bright red colors, some of the bright specks of yellow indicating wind speeds over 50 miles per hour. Earlier, we were seeing wind gusts closer to 60 miles per hour. So Racine, as well as western Kenosha County, seeing it right now.
There you go. And I'm zooming in, trying to get zoomed in here on Paddock Lake.
Okay.
It's not popping up at the moment, but that's the general area.
Right.
Because National Weather Service expecting the next rotation to take place just north of Paddock Lake.
Okay.
And they say they're still looking like southwest Franksville is seeing some tornado debris signatures there, as we were just talking about, and getting lots of reports from the different area weather stations of 51 not mile per hour, but knots. So
wow.
obviously stronger than that in the area. And it's just, again, from the National Weather Service here, just kind of reading this live, saying they're not going to issue new tornado warnings for southeastern portion of Milwaukee County yet, but not quite the all clear either. They're going to keep basically keep things on the ready, if you will. But that is the position here and stuff. It's not surprising that this is the area that they're kind of watching for the next potential spin-up.
Right. At the very least, you can tell that the wind is going to be very strong as we stay on this velocity scan. Once again, those yellows indicating wind speeds likely over 50 miles per hour. But even though you can't see specific rotation on this velocity scan, once again, we've been watching very closely that correlation coefficient, the tornado debris signatures for the potential for actual debris being lofted in the air by a potential tornado. So Racine, as well as western Kenosha County, you guys are in the thick of this right now. You already saw your neighbors towards the west, places like Lake Geneva, Whitewater, dealt with this line. There were numerous tornado touchdowns from this line, especially north in parts of Waukesha County.
Right. National
so
Weather
treat it
Service
seriously.
actually just sending out that they're getting more and more reports of actual visuals on the tornadoes from the past hour.
Okay.
They appreciate it. We appreciate it. It definitely helps us not only tell this story, but keep people safe as we tell it.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. So still keeping on these tornado warnings in parts of Racine as well as Kenosha County. Southern Milwaukee County taken out of your tornado warning. So that's some good news there. You can see severe thunderstorm warnings extending south of
I think
the
this
border.
is what they were talking about, the National Weather Service, where they said they weren't going to continue South Milwaukee
Right.
County, but they are ready in case that does become necessary again. And they're not really sounding the all clear for South Milwaukee County yet either, Stephanie.
Absolutely. In fact, let's go ahead and put radar up real quick, and we can take a look at how this line is looking as it continues to move south. Yeah, I mean, it is definitely still over parts of southern Milwaukee County. Oak Creek, you're still seeing at the very least some very heavy rainfall. I'm going to get caught up real quick with what the National Weather Service is saying.
In case you're wondering what it is, we're in contact continually live with the National Weather Service. They are our partners always when we communicate severe weather. And so when we're translating to you, this is kind of an internal conversation that it's a private, chat line essentially, where we're able to communicate to them, they're able to communicate to us, and it's a very effective way of letting you know what's going on, and of course helping us as well as helping the National Weather Service forecast and what we call nowcast these types of storms. Now, Stephanie's obviously zooming in on this portion right here. And this is the warning box that's still in place over portions of Racine and Kenosha County. Let me step out, seeing as Stephanie set this map up and there's something printing out. Maybe, Steph, you can step back in
Sure,
and
absolutely.
take a look at what's going on over
In
there.
fact, a new report for you, Cudahy, peak wind gust of 59 miles per hour.
In fact, that,
as
yeah,
that
at
line
Mitchell
moved through.
International is the note
Right.
below. So there you go. A lot of folks that talk about, severe weather not making it to the lakeshore. Cudahy is the lakeshore.
Right, absolutely. So once again, I mean, places like Oak Creek, southern Milwaukee County, you are still seeing this line moving through. It is just not as strong as what it was even just a short time ago. Still stay in your safe place until that storm has completely ended. What we're really focusing in on now is this area of the line passing through western Racine County on into western parts of Kenosha County. I hear we have the airport cam. Let's just look at it real quick with the fact that we just got that wind gust report. I mean,
wow.
the camera is shaking. Rain is still very heavy. So clearly, even though your warning has expired, you are still dealing with a strong part of the storm. Soon it'll be out over Lake Michigan, but once again, for now, if you are near the airport, this is what you're dealing with. Stay inside until this storm has passed. Let's switch back over now. This is a look at velocity scans as well. In addition, pretty much for the past couple of hours, to the possibility of these tornadoes, the wind gust threat has still been huge.
So we just got a report from the National Weather Service, Elkhorn, a public report of a tornado just earlier this afternoon. So this is not a real-time report, but it was shortly after the noon hour. But that goes to what we were saying before about getting more reports of visuals and eyes on these tornadoes. So this one was in Walworth County at Elkhorn, but at 12:01.
Right, exactly. And I can't stress enough, if you are in an area where the line has already passed through, so maybe Elkhorn or parts of Waukesha County where there were reports of a tornado on the ground, don't go out and look at the damage. Still stay in your safe spot. Be very, very careful. You don't really know what you're going to encounter as you step out the door, so still just be very safe. And if I were you, I would just stay put for a while longer. But once again, parts of Racine, Kenosha County, and still southern parts of Milwaukee County dealing with these strong winds.
And now our director just jumping in my ear to let us know that we have some shots of a jackknife tractor trailer on the highway. We talked a lot about this earlier, about how challenging it is to drive in these kind of conditions. So obviously, this is a great example of why it's important to take care and immediately leave the roadway in a severe situation like this and find substantial structures. This obviously is a very dangerous situation with this jackknife tractor trailer. That's at 45 and Silver Spring Drive. It's an additional hazard, obviously, in addition to the rain, obviously the heavy rain on the road, the strong wind. You can see the camera shaking around. And then you've got drivers coming up to this jackknife tractor trailer wondering how to get around. You can see the emergency lights flashing and everybody trying to adjust. If you are in the path of this storm, take a break. Get off the highway. If you've got a friend, a family member who's usually heading home or heading out to a late lunch or whatever the case may be, this is the chance for you to communicate to them that they need to get off. Don't text them. We don't want them looking down, but give them a call if they've got the hands free and let them know it's time to get off the road, get away from areas like this, and just give it another, Stephanie, maybe 45 minutes, and we should be in the clear.
Yep, absolutely. And then the strongest part of this line will be out over the lake. Just want to give you the latest. There are two main areas of concern right now as far as those tornado debris go. You can see it getting a little bit stronger just north and just west of Mount Pleasant. So that's going to be heading into Racine here shortly as this continues to track towards the east. And again, you can see that brighter color just east of Mount Pleasant too. So Mount Pleasant up to Racine and areas in between. Make sure you are in, once again, your safe spot and stay there. This line is not done just yet. And then another area via the National Weather Service in Kenosha County near Pleasant Prairie, not necessarily as put together as what we're seeing in Racine County, but just know there is still the possibility in and around the Pleasant Prairie area for rotation from this line.
And speaking of debris, just right off the printer here, we do have another report. West Dallas, trees down 68th and Harrison, and 65th and Cleveland Ave. That's kind of on the Milwaukee-West Dallas border, if you will. So some significant trees down there. And typically when you say trees down, it means uprooted. You know, when we talk about limbs down, if portions of the tree are taken down, we talked about that earlier, but these appear to be significant trees down. It's 68th and Harrison, and again 65th and Cleveland. That's in West Allis, so an indicator of how these winds have been damaging. And again, Steph, it kind of backs up that debris tracker is telling its story fairly accurately, despite the leaves causing some grief.
Right, absolutely. We're really getting ground truth as to the strength of this line as it continued to move through these areas.
Look at this bullseye right here.
Exactly. So still perking up a little bit in parts of Kenosha County as well as Racine County. So we're not quite done just yet. Still take this seriously if you are in these areas.
Now, the good news is we are starting to see some folks get the all clear now. We haven't quite 100% given that in portions of southeastern Milwaukee County, but certainly Ozaukee County, you're now out of that. The vast majority of Milwaukee County has seen the worst of this pass. But as Stephanie pointed out, you've still got a huge portion of Racine and Kenosha County that is under this warning, and this line is still proving to be very intense. We were just looking at that return on the radar, and look at the speed. This is a very short, was it a 1 hour loop, Stephanie?
Yes.
Yeah, so a 1 hour loop, and how quickly that moved across the map. It goes from southwestern portions of Waukesha County into central portions of Kenosha County in an hour. That line is just racing across the map and generating strong wind, large hail, and obviously creating quite a bit of damage. You may have heard the printer go off in the background with yet another report, and this one just happens to be numerous trees and branches down, and this one is northeast of Cudahy. So obviously right there by
Look
the
at
lakeshore.
that wind gust. Do you see the wind gust with that report? 73 miles per
Yes,
hour.
I see that now.
near
73
Cudahy.
mile per hour wind gust, pretty significant. I think we have a camera to take as well for this, so we may go ahead and take that. It'll give us an idea. I think you said we have the airport camera, but I'm not sure. That would be a good one. Any of the cameras that we have live, there's a good one right there. Now, that's actually gotten better,
It
Stephanie.
has gotten better. In fact, I think the strongest part of the line is now out of Milwaukee County. You're still dealing with rain. And let's switch over to our Estabrook cam as well. Let's see what it looks like from that view, which I would assume is probably looking south, I would say.
But it was low clouds,
I
dark
know.
clouds there.
Very low cloud cover. This is still racing off towards the east. And I mean, really, most of the reports, Rob, that we're seeing right now are damage reports
Right.
as this line moved through. So
Was it 3-inch tree limbs taken down, power
in
poles broken?
Darien, and so that's a little farther south in Walworth County. So all across the area as this
Right.
line moved through, this produced some damage.
Going back to our timeline here, Stephanie, I'm going to try to bring up one of our smart WeatherNet cameras that's in the
Sure.
Kenosha area down at Carthage College. But, you know, as you can see, we'll keep tracking that line. I'm somewhat concerned by that radar return that's just approaching 41 right now.
Right. In fact, you know what? Let's look at velocity scans real quick. Clearly, the wind is still very strong with this. And then we will go back to those debris signatures. Well, the good news is that you're not seeing a ton in Racine, maybe
Well, that's
close
good.
to Racine itself, but definitely weaker. And, you know, there are still some signs in Kenosha County as, once again, kind of that stronger part of the line continues to move through.
It's interesting that we are
Parts
seeing
of the
quite a bit
area.
of that as you get toward the state line there, starting to get into
True, perking up
Lake
a little
County.
bit.
Look at that.
Yeah.
A lot of debris tracking going on there.
I
but-
mean, it really is a very helpful tool that we don't actually often use too much here in southeast Wisconsin.
No, that's very true, but
It's
it
getting
is
a
something
workout
that has been helping us quite a bit today, but it has been fascinating to watch how the leaves in this season are affecting it. And obviously, you know, severe weather season is almost a 12-month situation for us here in southeastern Wisconsin, but the fall time has its own unique challenges, to be sure. So I have a couple of the cameras into the Kenosha County area. Guys, we want to go to the graphic 7 here. It creates quite the time lapse at the moment that we're rolling through. We'll be able to bring that up for you shortly. And of course, we
There you
do
go.
have numerous cameras there. That's actually not looking too bad right now. I'm disheartened to see someone out walking the dog. That is not a good time to be doing that outside of the Civil War Museum as this line of storms rolls in. Sheboygan obviously looking a little bit better there. And there's Carthage College. Doesn't look too bad by that picture. Now, these aren't live cameras, so you can't see the trees moving, but you can almost see in the bend there of the tree that it was challenging situation. So we'll keep an eye on that and run some of those time lapses a few times to see if we can catch anything.
Right, and let's go over those warnings again. So we do still have a tornado warning ongoing for parts of Racine, really far eastern Racine County, down into parts of Kenosha County as the main part of this line. This is the southernmost part of this line. We are almost out of it. Moves through Racine as well as Kenosha County, but there is still a tornado threat going forward as this continues to push on through. Rob, if you could remind me when those warnings expire.
Right.
My guess is shortly after 1 o'clock.
Right, yeah, we're just coming up to that now, so it's about 4 minutes to 1, so we're getting close to the expiry of that. Now,
Right.
the last I got was that they will be expiring on time, so
Okay.
that's good.
Great. So, I mean, really, we just have a short time longer, but make sure you are hunkering down if you are in Racine and Kenosha County. Stay in your safe spot.
National
really,
Weather Service, in fact, Steph, didn't mean to interrupt you here, but
No, go ahead.
saying that the terminal Doppler that's one at the airport is actually really picking up on these two rotations in Kenosha County right
Okay.
now. One by Summers, the other one on the west side of Kenosha. So let me see if I can zoom in on
Okay.
that.
So, I mean, certainly in this area. In fact, they probably just issued.
Yep.
Okay.
Now we have a
just
tornado
a new
warning.
warning box for eastern Kenosha County, likely with this area up in here.
There's Summers right there.
Summers. So we definitely have some rotation in that area, and that will continue to track eastward too. So that's really northern Kenosha County or northeastern Kenosha County as that moves in.
All right, let me clear that beeping in the background there. And just a report from Milwaukee County of some damage now, too, ripping up some shingles off of home in Milwaukee County, and a 1-inch tree limbs taken down there as well.
Okay, so this is still a very powerful line of storms. In addition to that tornado potential, there is still the potential for wind gusts as high as 60 miles per hour, which we just saw near Cudahy earlier as this line moved through. There was a reported wind gust of 73 miles per hour. That will still do some damage. And then in addition, there is still a hail threat too. We could see some larger hail up to about 3/4 of an inch. Now this will continue to track east-southeast here, this entire line from southern Racine County on into Kenosha County. Strongest part, again, where you're seeing some of these darker reds near Summers and north central parts of, really northeastern parts of Kenosha County. And there is still that area in southern Racine County, just east of Sturtevant, that's likely still at least producing some strong wind. But if you are in eastern Kenosha County, especially near or east of Summers, make sure you are in your safe spot. The lowest part of your home, basement is ideal, away from any windows. If you don't have a basement, the innermost part of your main level. And I know some think immediately bathroom. Sometimes bathrooms still have windows. So if there's a closet, if there's a stairwell, that would actually be a little bit better than your bathroom. But stay hunkered down as this line that could produce tornadoes, that has produced tornadoes, that have touched down for at least a short amount of time, continues to move on through.
And Steph, we were talking earlier, the National Weather Service, about what they call the terminal radar. So I've added that now to our
Awesome.
sweeping radar, and that's that little dome that you see just underneath the radar label there. And that is really picking up on this line in real time and showing
Right.
some really challenging situations.
Right, really, and still showing it pretty strong, again, in southern Racine County, but especially in northeastern parts of Kenosha County down into south central parts of that county. So Kenosha itself, soon this is going to be moving in. We do still have those 2 tornado warnings in effect for just a short time longer. Pretty soon this line's going to be out over the lake, but until then, once again, stay in that safe spot.
Right, and this is something, of course, that we have reviewed before, but you want to find that interior room away from those windows because, as we talked about, there is anything blowing. That debris signature that we're talking about is, what we're looking at glass, whether it's, maybe it's leaves. If we're lucky, it's leaves,
Right.
but maybe it's 1-inch tree limbs. Now, look, Seth, they just updated it here to make this a severe thunderstorm warning and then kind of shrunk down the tornado warning.
Right, so we do still have that 1 tornado warning that was issued just a short time
Right,
ago for
through
eastern
1:15.
Kenosha until 1:15, so it's 1 o'clock right now. But still, even though the tornado warning was lifted for Racine and other parts of Kenosha County, you are still under that severe thunderstorm warning for those wind gust threats as well as the hail threat and heavy rain
Right.
as well.
All right, so I'm going to switch back over to that terminal radar stuff. And again, this is starting to look a little bit better. You can see that the folks up at the National Weather Service are, starting to breathe again, which is a good indicator that we're getting toward the end of this. But I definitely want to caution anybody in that southeastern corner of Kenosha County and the far southeastern corner of Racine County, even though you're not technically under the warning, this area is still under that warning. And this is a line that is still producing some very strong wind. Now, out ahead of it by just a little bit, it's not all that bad. We saw that live camera right down to the Civil War Museum. It didn't look like a bad day, and unfortunately the gentleman walking his dog there thought it was just fine. It's not. Don't go out right now. Wait till this line passes. I think we've got maybe another 15 minutes left for this line to clear our area. It'll be out over the lake, and then we can kind of go back and do the forensics, if you will, on what happened with this line of storms as it came through our region, and definitely kept us very busy for the last, what have we been on the air since about 11:30? So yeah, it's been a good long stretch. I want to give a huge shout out to the incredible work that meteorologist Stephanie Barrichello has been doing, and of course all of our behind the scenes folks here, even having to take shelter within the building at one point. Now, Stephanie, that warning goes till about 1:15. We are starting to see some improvement with this. Last I heard from the National Weather Service, the rotation at Summers should be out over the lake almost immediately.
Correct. And, it's always somewhat of a good sign when you start to see marine warnings put into place, because that's our sign that this is just about over the lake. So we're getting there. Right. But still, obviously, within that tornado warning, you still got to stay in that safe spot. No, I mean, no reports right now, which is fantastic, but even just off towards the west a short time ago, there was still rotation. Right.
And as we've seen, this happens so quickly. There's nothing saying that this, in that last, what is that, maybe 20 miles or so before it gets out over the lake in the far southwest portion of this line, not even probably, more like 10 or 15. It could easily intensify briefly before it gets out over the lake and starts to leave us alone. And farther up to the north and west, there's still some rain coming down, and we're still seeing some wind and things like that. So it's going to take a while to completely ease up, although we are seeing drier conditions farther west. The two sweeps that you're seeing there, this is the National Weather Service in Sullivan. That's the main sweep. And then this is that terminal radar, which is the one at the airport, of course, swinging around the terminal radar, spinning around there, giving us that really good idea of what's been happening. And Stephanie, you've been using this debris tracker. How's that look?
Yeah, let's take a look at that, because that is what we have been watching pretty much from the start. What prompted, and I'll go back and give you guys an idea, what prompted that first warning earlier this morning, I guess, or really just a short time ago, was this debris signature that showed up on what we call, the fancy term is correlation coefficient, but it's essentially just a debris tracker. So south of Watertown, there was debris showing up on this product, and that is what we have primarily been watching as I loop this for you the past couple of hours, as that has really been our indicator as this line moved through, that there was clear tornado potential with this very strong line. You can, again, as this is looped, just see those little here or there. So, I mean, these were likely very quick touchdowns, but this is a tool that has been very helpful this afternoon. And right now, it does actually look okay, even in those southern communities.
Which is good to see. But yes, an incredible tool that we've been using here at Fox 6 to keep you up to speed and, of course, help us forecast the situation. And a lot of this is proving to be true now that we're getting some storm reports in. People that are in the all clear are able to kind of assess what's happened. And this one just came in from Darien, which is over in Walworth County, very close to where Stephanie was just pointing out on the debris tracker. They're saying a 3-inch tree limb's taken down. That's a sizable tree limb. And some power poles broken. It's an interesting phrase there, power poles broken. I don't know if that means that the actual pole itself has been damaged or whether the lines are down, but either way, obviously some folks are without power, and continuing to see reports of confirmations of these funnels and tornadoes that actually were in contact with the ground. So now we still have this warning until 1:15, so we're about 10 minutes out. Wouldn't surprise me if this possibly ended a little early, as we're not really seeing any further intensification. If anything, Stephanie, I feel like it's kind of stepped back just a little, but I don't want to be overly optimistic.
Yes, no, I absolutely agree. You can always tell, even just simply put, when you're seeing some of the colors going from red to oranges to yellows. That's even just the tiniest sign that there is some weakening. And so that's some good news. Now I'm checking in with We Energies right now. It looked like there are over 22,000 without power at the moment. So there are quite a few dealing with power outages across southeast Wisconsin. Not a surprise as this line moved through and produced, winds over 60, even over 70 miles per hour. So just a heads up there, and we'll keep on that throughout the rest of the evening. But back to radar, once again, we have that last tornado warning set to expire around 1:15.
About 9 minutes left, and we do still have that camera down at the Civil War Museum. If we can go to graphic 7, guys, so we can bring that up, part of our smart weather net. Again, these are still cameras that only update every minute or so, but you can see how much it has changed from the last time we checked in with that situation. And if we look at the time lapse, look at how beautiful it was earlier today, and then how quickly that changed as the system started to make its way in. You can see the trees kind of shaking as the wind gusts pick up, and then in the last few frames the rain starts to fall,
right,
and of course the visibility drops right off.
Absolutely. So obviously the rain is moving through at the moment. You are still under that tornado warning, Kenosha, so stay in your safe spot. I just want to zoom this out a little bit. If we can be thankful, it's the fact that, this is what's left of this very powerful line that really didn't look like much on radar, but did it pack a punch? Mm-hmm. It absolutely did. And just to show you the bigger picture, there is still rain falling across the rest of southeast Wisconsin, but once this is actually out of here, look at this break off towards the west.
This is where we want to get to. We want to get into this clear. Then we'll be able to, Steph will be able to finish eating her pizza that she almost started before during her lunch break, but has not been able to finish. And we can kind of get out there and assess the damage and the situation. As things kind of wind down, of course, the National Weather Service will be sending crews out to really to dig into what happened today and to kind of investigate this line, because every time we have a severe outbreak like this, of course, there is a lesson to be learned, and it just furthers the science that we are all, so involved with directly. And I want to thank you for being great, members of that in a way, because of course you provide us with these reports. Look at all the storm reports, like Steph was reading my mind there, and brought up the storm report map, and you can see numerous tornado funnel cloud reports popping up. Look at all of the damage reports and these wind gust reports. Once we start to actually have a lot more folks in the all clear step out and kind of assess the situation, I'm sure this map will be covered by tomorrow morning.
So no tornado warning for Lake County, but you do have this severe thunderstorm warning now in effect until 1:30. And Tracy has these showers, and basically it's tough to call them thunderstorms because there really isn't a lot of lightning with them. But as this area of stormy weather slides to the south and east, we'll have the potential there for some very high winds and maybe a few brief spin-up tornadoes. So that's what we'll be watching. I'll just do a quick track on this as it moves off towards the east-southeast into parts of Lake County here. So we're talking Antioch around 1251, Lake Villa at 1257, then up towards Kenosha around 105. So when you look at that velocity data, Tracy, it's really kind of clear those little signatures that we're seeing on the velocity data that recognize the potential for some spin, which could prompt a tornado.
And you know what, Larry? You brought up lightning, and I'm looking at lightning detection here over on our main computer, and it's not something that we are seeing really much of at all. And so that's why this can be a little bit confusing and kind of catch folks off guard, because you're thinking, hey, wait a minute, I don't really see nor hear anything that would signify a major thunderstorm or anything like that. But as you so pointed out, Larry, the problem has been the potential for these winds with the colder air aloft, and you do get some of this rotation that's occurring. It's weak rotation at that, but rotation nonetheless that has prompted that severe thunderstorm warning. So you talked once again, not just the severe thunderstorm warning, the tornado warning, but the severe thunderstorm warning that we talked about in Lake County that was just added, and that is now in effect until 1:30 this afternoon. I do want you to be prepared for this. If you live in Lake County, Waukegan, Lake Villa, Libertyville, even up toward Winthrop Harbor and Waukegan, this does stay in effect for you. And the Weather Service, and in fact, they're even talking about that if a tornado were to occur within any of these areas under a severe thunderstorm warning or the tornado warning, they are saying it would be on the very weak side and may develop with very little warning. So that's why we're kind of catching you at this time. And you're saying, wait a minute, the severe weather? What are we talking about here? It doesn't seem like a severe weather kind of day out there. And it's very, very interesting that we are getting this sort of issue, I would say, on a day like this. But we do have a very strong cold front. And I will tell you, you're going to notice what that cold front is going to bring us in the coming days. It is going to get much colder around here in the coming days. I want to check because I see the tornado warning is flashing now. I'm going to check with Larry. Larry, are you seeing any update to the tornado warning as we are getting that blinking red there? I'm seeing that they just kind of shaved off the western part of Racine and Kenosha as well as eastern Walworth County. So as that continues to race to the east, I think we're going to notice this continuing to kind of be eroded off to the west as far as that tornado warning box is concerned.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Tracy. You know, if you look at the velocity data, we'll go to the other computer here, and you can see where those areas that I highlighted where you get the rotation, and I'll point them out again. There's a couple little notches showing up. One's right here. The one that was a little farther to the south looks like it may have kind of dissipated. But as this line, which kind of indicates where the gusty winds are located with this little thunderstorm, that's the area where once that clears out of the box area, they kind of trim back the tornado warning. So that updated box you saw flashing across parts of Racine and Kenosha here, that was and there it just kind of updated again. That's kind of a trimming back of the location of where the high winds are. So what the Weather Service is doing, and they do this very well, and they have a good way of kind of alerting people, is they're tracking right here this leading edge of the winds that have the potential for some brief spin-up tornadoes. And as that moves out of the area that was under the warning, they clear that area. So it's really a way to let people know that once the threat for a tornado passes your area, you're cleared from the warning. So they do that in almost real time as the storm evolves and passes through, and that's what we're seeing right here. The other thing which I find very fascinating about these little thunderstorms, Tracy, is they're not very tall. In fact, look at this. They're not even up to 20,000 feet in height. These are very small. We call them low-topped showers and thunderstorms, and they just really don't have great extent up into the atmosphere, but they have enough of that low-level wind energy that when we get these high winds like we're seeing, combined with a little kind of a backing of the winds down at the surface, so it creates kind of a little spin in the atmosphere at the lowest levels, and sometimes that can be just enough to produce these brief tornadoes. You mentioned it a second ago, how really the main concern here is for high winds upwards of 60 miles per hour and a few brief spin-up tornadoes along those gusty winds. So if you can kind of picture in your head, when you get a big gust of wind coming out of a thunderstorm, you know, the trees bend, the rain comes down harder, it comes down horizontally in some cases when you get those high winds. Well, picture with those gusts of high winds that you could see little spin-up little vortices, little tornadoes along those gusty winds. And that's basically the setup in the atmosphere that we're dealing with here today, is that along that leading edge of those winds, there's these little notches, which the radar, I mean, it really does a fantastic job of kind of pointing them out to us. There's one there may be another one up here. They don't last very long, but those little notches are the signs we look for any indication of rotation. And they, as I mentioned, they're very brief, and I'll just go back in time and you kind of see the evolution of a few of these as they move into Kenosha and Racine here right now. You can see they just kind of spin up and then they kind of fade away. So far they've remained north of the state line, but as we look down into parts of McHenry and Lake County, you can see you're under severe thunderstorm warnings for this line of storms, which will eventually head in your direction. And it does pack the possibility here of winds to 60 miles per hour. Tracy, the other thing with the storms being so what we call kind of low top, they don't have much height to them. They're not really big rain producers. They'll spit out some brief heavy rain, but it's really the wind threat which is our main concern with this entire line.
Yeah, and the wind threat, not just the wind threat, but you know, we were talking about the wind threat, straight line winds, as well as the potential for maybe a little rotation, which you have been citing very well on velocity. But something I also want to point out to you, we are monitoring possibly a few areas of very weak rotation associated with these showers out to the west of Chicago. And I'm talking maybe out around the Fox Valley region in Kane, Kendall, DeKalb, and LaSalle counties. If we go to the main computer right now, and I show you the radar, I want to reassure you we don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings in Kane County, nor in DeKalb, nor in LaSalle. But just like we've been monitoring very closely with this line of showers, and I know, Larry, it's so strange. It's hard to say thunderstorms because I keep checking lightning detection and there just isn't much lightning at all. And as you've said, these are very low topped storms. We're not getting certainly much in the way of lightning at all. And as I also mentioned, we're not getting really much in the way of heavy rain. Something else that we are monitoring, because there are reports around let's see, the Twin Lakes, Wisconsin area of some very strong straight line winds. And I talked about that earlier. These could possibly even brush northern Lake County here on the Illinois side. And that's why you do have that severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 1:30 this afternoon in Lake County. So those of you in Waukegan, as well as Lake Villa, in Libertyville, that's why you do have that severe thunderstorm warning in effect for you. But we continue to, again, shave off that tornado warning, which is really good news for folks up in portions of southern Wisconsin. I don't want to turn my back on the radar here on the Illinois side at all, because as I said, we are watching for you kind of this line. It's been so very tricky, this line of showers, and it looks like absolutely nothing that we're seeing as far as this line of showers down towards Sandwich into, I would say, Ottawa. And it doesn't look like much. And that's been the problem with this whole setup all along. None of this really looks like much, but because of the cold air aloft, which you talked about, Larry, we do get the potential for just maybe a little bit of circulation, a weak little spin-up tornado that's possible. Larry, I just want to check with you, see if there's anything that you're seeing that maybe I am not right now.
No, you got it all there, Tracy. You know, it's really interesting with this line that's coming through. We've got it's a gusty winds, maybe a brief tornado spinning up along the line and some brief downpours. It extends all the way down into parts of LaSalle County, but so far the worst of the weather has been across southern Wisconsin and up here across McHenry and now pushing into Lake County. The purple box you see on the outline map here, that's the tornado warning. These are the severe thunderstorm warnings, and I've been really watching the velocity data pretty closely here. And right here, that leading edge, and I was pointing out a few moments ago, it's very jagged. You don't like to see that. That means there's some spin going on along that leading gust front where the winds are rushing out ahead of the thunderstorm, or even right underneath the thunderstorm itself. And whenever you get that little spin, that's the areas where there could be a brief spin up tornado. So we're watching a couple of spots here, still north of the state line. As Tracy was mentioning, there are a few areas farther to the south that have a little suspicion to them where you got to keep an eye on them. But at this point, the only ones that look like they could potentially spin up a tornado would be up here across parts of Kenosha and Racine counties. And you can see them moving off towards the east. They're getting close to the state line, especially that one right here. So let's go in just a little bit closer on the radar just to take a closer peek at this one here. This is just north of Antioch, heading towards Pikeville, Woodworth as well. So just north of the state line here, just to the east of 75 and approaching 45 right now. Once you get north of Pikeville, that's an area where there's could possibly be a brief little spin up tornado, and that's moving off towards the east here. So if you're north of the state line, and we've got some viewers up this way, just take your tornado precautions right now and let this storm pass by. It'll be moving off towards the east here towards Woodworth, Pikeville, eventually over towards Pleasant Prairie as well, up here just north of the state line. So that's one little spot where we're concerned about a potential spin up of a tornado. The other area here, which is kind of interesting as well, is you see these little yellow and orange markers on the velocity data. Those are indicative of areas where we're getting some high winds. The velocity data there, where the radar measures the speed of the raindrops, could be up around 50 miles per hour. So gusty winds for sure with this line of rain, and a potential for an isolated spin-up tornado right here across the southern parts of Kenosha County, just north of the state line. Tracy, the line itself is moving off towards the east at about 35 to 40 miles per hour. And a lot of people are saying it is cold outside. It's too cold to have tornadoes. But when you get this much wind in the atmosphere and you get enough spin along this line, you can see these little brief spin up tornadoes. And I think that's really going to be the concern for at least the next couple of hours, especially across the northern half of the area and especially up here in southern Wisconsin.
Thank you, Larry. You know what? Terrell has given me some information. You were talking about Walworth County.
Yeah, because Tracy, that's where the warnings first started on the back end of the 11 a little bit earlier on this morning, and that's the Delavan area, Whitewater.
Right.
And getting a report now, this just came in from county officials out there. No reports of a tornado touching down anywhere in Walworth County. They do have tree limbs, branches, and wires down. Also, no reports of any injuries at this point. Also checked in with Racine and Kenosha County Emergency Management. Also not reporting any damage out there right now, but on alert and keeping eyes to the skies as we speak.
Terrell, thank you so much. Thank you. We really appreciate you being here to check out that information. And Larry was talking about, getting into your safe place. And so what is that when a tornado warning is issued or has been spotted on radar? And again, we haven't had anything really spotted. It has all been radar indicated. You want to get into the lowest level of the structure that you are in to seek shelter immediately, and especially in a sturdy building, and stay away from windows. I want to go back to some of the information that I am getting from the Weather Service office, because I mentioned to you, we certainly don't want to turn our backs on the Illinois side here, and we're watching very closely what is going on here on the Illinois side. And it's from McHenry to Elgin. With this line of showers, and I'm calling it showers. I can't really call these thunderstorms. We're not really getting much in the way of lightning. We are getting showers, and there have been wind gusts that have been picking up. In fact, we're getting reports from McHenry, as I mentioned, back toward the Sandwich area, some wind gusts of 20 to 30 miles per hour, even some higher gusts up to 40 miles per hour. That's been our concern all along, is the potential for these very strong gusty winds. Let's see, severe and in fact, this just in, the Weather Service has just canceled the severe thunderstorm warning in McHenry County. So that's a little bit of good news. Can breathe a sign of relief. But something I bet you may be noticing in McHenry County right now, I bet you may be noticing a temperature drop. Very, very possible that we're seeing these temperatures falling, very abrupt change in the wind direction, and abrupt change in the temperatures as well. So along with these very strong wind gusts too, but we are going to notice the severe thunderstorm warning that will expire in McHenry County, but we're going to keep it around across the northern half basically of Lake County. Let's go back to the radar here and check out what we are seeing. And once again, I keep repeating kind of the same thing, in that it's been a little bit misleading, because when you look at the radar, it's not that impressive. It doesn't look like we have any major severe weather. And while we don't, we still have the potential for these little spin up tornadoes, which can result in some downed trees, some downed power lines, which certainly can cause inconvenience nonetheless. We're still watching, and Larry was talking about kind of that jagged edge on the velocity signature off to the north, but we're also monitoring. We had reports from the Weather Service about these strong straight line winds maybe being ushered into the northern part of Lake County here on the Illinois side. Let's see, continuing the severe thunderstorm warning, and in fact they will continue that in Lake County until 1:30 this afternoon, for the potential of 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, maybe even some hail at this point. I want to go back to Larry. Larry, any updates that you have for us on anything maybe new that you are seeing, or maybe old?
Yeah, Tracy, we've been looking at the temperature pattern here, and just look at the difference here in the temperatures. It drops quickly into the 50s, even low 50s behind that area of rain. Ahead of the rain, we're still in the 60s, but of course right now, the tornado warning up here across parts of Racine and Kenosha counties, it's still in effect until 1 o'clock, and it continues to get trimmed back. We've mentioned that as we've gone through the course of the afternoon here. As the threat of a tornado kind of shifts out of the warning area, they quickly trim it back, and you can see just this area outlined in the purple box is the area of concern. for a potential tornado. The other area of rain that's now moving towards Lake Villa right now, this area here could produce some gusty winds, and you're still under a severe thunderstorm warning here for Lake County until 1:30. The warning back here for McHenry County has been cleared. The box will drop off here any moment, but the severe thunderstorm warning continues right here across parts of McHenry County as that area of rain shifts off towards the east. And again, the threat would be for some high winds and maybe a brief spin-up tornado. So when we look over at the velocity data, and this has been a really helpful tool for us to kind of spot these areas where there's a little bit of rotation. Little spot right here, maybe still something going on here. I was highlighting that just a few moments ago. Let me zoom in closer to that area because there still might be a little something suspicious going on here right over 45, just north of the state line, north of Pikeville. So something may be trying to develop in this area. Again, if there is a tornado, it's really fast. It's pretty weak if we are to see one, and then it would kind of dissipate as it moves off towards the east. Tracy, I am looking too at some of the velocity data coming out here across parts of McHenry County, and it looks still a little jagged. Don't like to see this over Round Lake Beach. There might be some signs here that there could be something trying to kind of usher in maybe a brief rotation marker here between Lake Villa and Round Lake Beach. So that's a spot we're going to have to keep an eye on as well. No warning with that area in terms of a tornado warning. But I go back to this, Tracy, and you look at these showers, they're so small in height. They only go up about 10 to 20,000 feet. That's it. So they're not the traditional springtime supercell thunderstorms that we see. This is certainly a different type of environment than what we typically see with severe weather, but nonetheless, the threat is there for some very high winds and also some brief spin-up tornadoes. When you look at the winds too, let me just put the wind gust on here as well. We're seeing winds gusting upwards of 35 to even 40 miles per hour out ahead of the rain. Even across the city, we're getting some gusts up to 35 miles per hour. So blustery conditions, and then once that rain moves through, it turns sharply colder with temperatures dropping quickly into the lower 50s. But Tracy, the one thing that we'll keep an eye on here is that part of the rain complex across parts of Lake County where we still have the severe thunderstorm warning, and then that tornado warning up here across Kenosha County. Looks like the tornado threat is moving out of Racine right now and kind of focusing on the eastern part of Kenosha County. That's where we're still concerned for a brief spin-up tornado.
Thank you very much, Larry. And Phil Schwartz is also here in the ABC 7 Weather Center, and he's kind of keeping an eye on things as well, the National Weather Service Office report. So he'll let us know if he's seeing anything new. We just did get some word out of Milwaukee that there has been some damage, possibly attributed to a tornado up that direction. But I do want to track this line because I want you to be aware of where you're about to get in on some of these potentially very strong winds. So in Aurora, in Naperville, in Downers Grove, as this line is really racing to the east, I would anticipate within probably the next half hour, you are going to see that. I think these times are a bit off right there, but I would say within most likely the next 15 minutes to about 30 minutes, racing off to the east is where we are going to see that line of showers. And I still say showers. We're not seeing a lot as far as lightning or storms. And as Larry pointed out, kind of that back edge of that tornado warning continues to get adjusted, readjusted. We have the severe thunderstorm warning in effect to account for the potential for maybe some 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts across the northern portion of Lake County. So again, it's that time, if you're under that tornado warning in Kenosha County, to take your tornado safety precautions. I'm going to just yell back to Phil very quickly. And Phil, I'm just wondering if you are hearing or seeing anything, any damage reports or any new information coming into the ABC 7 Weather Center. I believe Phil has a microphone available. No microphone?
Justice 43 miles per hour in Sugar Grove. That's about it.
Okay, Sugar Grove, 43-mile-per-hour wind gust, and that's what I was talking about with that line coming on through. So once again, we point out this is the line, and we are watching for that is going to kind of get in the way over the next hour or so. We don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings nor tornado warnings any farther south than what you're seeing in Lake County. This is still set to expire at 1:30 this afternoon with that tornado warning up in the eastern part of Kenosha County. Those of you in Walworth County, no longer. You're kind of exempt from the tornado warning for now, but you are getting falling temperatures. You are still getting some gusty winds up that way, and definitely noticing a switch in that wind direction compared to what we had. Larry keeps pointing out kind of this jagged little edge, that line right there. We talked about the straight line wind possibility of maybe 40, 50, or 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That's why the Weather Service issued that severe thunderstorm warning in McHenry County for the potential for wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour, and maybe even some incidents of hail. I'm not hearing a lot of hail reports at this moment. I want to check back with Larry and see if Larry, and by the way, are you hearing of any other hail reports? We may have had one or two, but I haven't seen many in what I have been watching.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen many either, Tracy. You know, when you get a storm like this where it's not very high up into the atmosphere, the hailstones don't really have a chance to grow very large. So we are seeing some small hail with these storms, but nothing terribly significant that would, you know, cause damage from hail. It's certainly the wind and the brief tornado threat that's still the biggest threat here with these little areas of showers moving through. They just updated the warning here for Kenosha. You can see the box right there, that red box. That's the zone now where there's still the potential for a brief spin-up tornado. This is moving towards the town of Kenosha right now, and southern areas south of Kenosha here, that's where we could still see a brief spin-up tornado. This tornado warning still in effect for just 5 more minutes because the area of threat here that may produce a brief spin-up tornado will likely move out over the lake, probably at least in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So when you look at that velocity data, which as Tracy was looking at a few seconds ago, I mean, it's really been a vital tool for us to kind of spot these little areas of rotation. And there is still a little bit of a notch here just outside of Kenosha. Maybe another one right along the state line here, just crossing the state line. There could be potentially another little area of spin that's trying to develop. I'll just go in closer to that area here. So this is right along Russell Road and 94 here and I-41 over towards Delaney Road as well. That's another spot here where we might be seeing some signs that there could be a little spinning going on with that gusty wind front coming out ahead of the rain. So these are just areas to keep in mind of where the possibility is there for a brief spin-up tornado. And the Weather Service was mentioning this earlier, and I know, Tracy, we've been talking about it too, that these spin-up tornadoes will have very little warning with them other than the broad warning we see, because they'll kind of spin up quickly and then kind of dissipate pretty quickly as well. But it's the wind threat and the brief spinning tornado threat that is the concern here with this line of rain coming on through. The other thing which Tracy highlighted as well is this line extends all the way down here into LaSalle County. The only portion, though, that is really producing the high winds and the tornado threat is up across northern Lake County and then into southern Wisconsin. But behind that, it certainly turns quite a bit colder, and our winds are very gusty. St. Charles has a gust now to 43 miles per hour, so there are some very high winds packed in within that area of rain. And if you go back to the radar, let me just go back here to the radar, you can see that area of rain is now moving pretty much right over St. Charles. So as this core of the rain shifts over top of where you live, you could get some gusts upwards of 45, maybe even 50 mile per hour wind gust as that marches off towards the east. And of course, up to the north is where we have that threat for maybe a few brief spin-up tornadoes. Just looking at our future radar here, this area of rain that's out to the west right now will take a little time to sweep through. In fact, let me just step through time here, and you can see as we head towards 2 o'clock, here's 1:55, 2 o'clock. The line of rain will be over the city, stretching down towards Joliet, and then it really won't be until, say, 3:30, 4 o'clock or so until it's completely out of our area. So we've got a couple hours with these gusty rain showers coming through, Tracy, and the threat for some more high winds. But at this point, the only tornado warning we have is up there in parts of Kenosha County. And you can see how the box has continued to get smaller here, just the eastern part of Kenosha County and then parts of Lake County under the severe thunderstorm warning.
And Larry, you pointed out the wind gusts. I'm going to revisit that once again, because what I want everybody to know, even at Midway, out at O'Hare, where we're getting wind gusts 20 miles per hour and 25 miles per hour. You see that wind gust in Aurora, 43 miles per hour. I do think we could still see farther to the east, even right here in the city. I think we'll get that wind shift over the next hour or so, and we could see some of those elevated wind gusts coming into the city during that time as well. And in fact, let's look at the temperatures, because we've been talking about how you may notice a sharp temperature drop. So right now it's 64 at O'Hare, but look at this. It's 51 degrees out in Aurora, 50 in DeKalb. So a lot of times when we get these buildups of those summer thunderstorms, and you go from a really, really warm and juicy air mass to something that's maybe slightly cooler, we're starting to get into somewhat colder air that's going to be coming our way, which you'll really notice in the coming days. Let's go back to the radar and take a look-see at that and see what we can see. Because on the radar, as Larry was talking, we can see that there are showers, there are some thunderstorms that are, we really even haven't had a lot in the way of thunderstorms per se. What we have had are these showers and this cold front that's coming our way that have just really moved into this atmosphere, creating the potential for these little spin-up tornadoes that we've been talking about. But I do definitely want to reference the fact that we have this line that's coming our way, and we're not quite done with rain here in Chicago. We're going to see this coming into the area over the coming hours. And I really think that probably as we get closer to about 2 o'clock this afternoon, we're going to see more in the way of some of that rain coming into the city as this is moving to the east at about 40 miles per hour. So let's go back to the severe thunderstorm warning. Check that out because it's still in effect across McHenry County, just the most eastern, slightest part of McHenry County until, well, it should be expiring very shortly. But Lake County is where we're really focusing that severe thunderstorm warning in effect now until 1:30 this afternoon. We've wanted to stay on the air with you, especially when we do have a tornado warning that is in effect. And I'm looking to see if we're getting any updates on that. Not at this time. We still have that tornado warning in effect in Kenosha County until, let's see, it keeps getting shaved back. Every single time we go back to look at it, it keeps getting eroded, and right now in effect. So the tornado warning until 1:15. So we have about 10 more minutes. Terrell has some more information for us.
Speaking of Kenosha County, reached out to the sheriff there at the Office of Emergency Management, talked to him about 45 minutes ago, said that there wasn't a whole lot going on at the time. We reached back out within the last 10 or 15 minutes or so, and he said that they're following the forecast. They're actually watching you guys right now. Watching that line of weather move through. No touchdowns to report into their office right now. Still warning folks and giving everybody a heads up of what's going on out there right now. In Salem, Wisconsin, the sirens are going off, but no reports of damage there. Burlington, also no reports of tornado damage at this point. And of course, want to go back to Walworth County, Tracy, where this all began, back half of the 11 a.m. hour with that tornado warning. Got a report from the lieutenant there that says no reports of tornadoes touching down there anywhere in Walworth County. And thankfully, tree limbs, branches, and wires down. I think we got some video that we're just getting in now. High winds coming in, and this is near Lake Geneva. And the viewer was wondering if this was one of those scenarios of one of those potential dust-up tornadoes that you all have been referencing. And you can see the low clouds there, Tracy.
Yeah, and I could actually see what appeared to be something, a little spin up right there. You can see
it,
a
right?
little bit of rotation almost as we're getting that wind shift taking place and taking shape. What you don't see there, you don't see any lightning, you don't see really heavy rain, and that's why this has been kind of a whole misleading system through the morning hours and into the afternoon. That being said, we still have the tornado warning. Terrell, thank you so much for those updates. We have the tornado warning still in effect, just this little eastern sliver of Kenosha County until 1:15 this afternoon. Still no longer McHenry County, but in Lake County, we still have a severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect there. I do want to go back to our other studio with Larry right now and check in with Larry to see if he has any updates that I haven't had a chance to see just yet.
Yeah, you know, Tracy, when you look at that video, it just kind of illustrates just how turbulent the atmosphere is at this point with the motion of the clouds that you saw from that video. Just a new update here on the severe thunderstorm warning. You can see the flashing box for parts of Lake County. This is to trim it back a little bit. As you can see, if you're just to the western part of the county, you're now out of the warning, but the new severe thunderstorm warning continues here until 1:30. So it continues for this area from Zion to Waukegan over towards Beach Park, down towards Lake Forest, Libertyville. You're included in this extension of the warning or continuation of the warning until 1:30, with the threats being some high wind, possibly up to 60 miles per hour. And still the possibility of maybe a brief spin-up tornado along this area of rain. And it's not very heavy rain, but it is an area of rain where you get a burst of wind coming out of it. And occasionally that burst of wind can produce some brief spin-up tornadoes. We'll look at the velocity data because that way we can kind of spot if anything suspicious is going on within that area of rain across Lake County. Here's the velocity data. First, we'll start in Kenosha County, where you can see the threat there for a tornado is kind of decreasing because we're not really seeing the jagged edge along the wind gust line like we were a few moments ago. So that's actually a really good sign. And it does look some of the worst of the winds starting to push out over the lake. Now our focus draws our attention down here into parts of Lake County, right along that leading edge of that heavy rain. And as I go in closer on the radar, right over towards Old Mill Lake, over towards Wedges Corner, Gages Lake, just outside of Grays Lake, right in this zone here, you kind of have to look at it kind of closely to see if there's any rotation. Or I'm not saying there's any sign of anything spinning up here, but there are still a few notches right in this general zone up towards the Wadsworth area as well. So if you live here in Gages Lake over towards Gurnee, up towards Wadsworth, I would just go into your safe area of your house and let this storm pass on by, just because the possibility is there that there could be a brief spin-up tornado. It wouldn't be a tornado that would, level your house or anything like that, but it could do some tree damage, and of course it could possibly, impact a tree that could impact your house. So you don't want to be anywhere close to a window in a situation like this where you could get some really high winds that also can come with the concern for maybe a brief spin-up tornado. The line itself extends as we continue to monitor it all the way down into LaSalle County, but the only warnings we have are up here across the far northern suburbs into parts of southern Wisconsin. That little sliver still under the tornado warning here until 1:15. There it is, and then the 1:30 severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Lake County as well. Looking farther to the south at the wind gusts, because we've seen some pretty high winds, we're still seeing those winds above 25 to 30 miles per hour out ahead of the rain, and then right along that area of rain, which extends all the way down here to the south and west, you get the gusts upwards of 40, 45, maybe even some 50 mile per hour wind gusts as it blows on through. The other thing which Tracy and I have been talking about throughout the course of this event here is just how low top these thunderstorms are, and they're not even going up to 20,000 feet, but there's a lot of wind energy within the atmosphere right now, and sometimes that wind energy can kind of translate into some very gusty winds down to the surface and occasionally some spin-up tornadoes as well. So Tracy, we're watching that spot right here still in Kenosha County. The good news is it looks like the worst of that storm has now kind of shifted out over the lake, and just by looking at the radar presentation here, where we've seen these brief spin-ups on the velocity data and on the radar data have been right along here over the leading edge of the rain. And now that is over the lake. It looks like the tornado threat here in Kenosha County is dropping off very quickly. Now down from Winthrop Harbor to Zion, stretching down towards Waukegan, and then just down to the south and west, it still continues with a high wind threat. And just as I was saying, the threat for a tornado expired in Kenosha County, the Weather Service went ahead and dropped the warning. So the box will fall off here in a few moments. But nonetheless, no more warnings for Kenosha County. We still have the severe thunderstorm warning here for Lake County until 1:30. And just looking at the velocity data here across Lake County, let's go back to that just because we want to keep an eye on what we're seeing in this area. I'm going to look at a couple different radars. I'm going to look at our radar. I'll look at the National Weather Service radar. That's the benefit of having a lot of radars to take a peek at, because you can get a sense of kind of what we're seeing here. And here's one velocity data radar that, again, shows a little jaggedness to the gust front with the rain. That's where you get the push of wind out. And you would like to see it be a consistent kind of straight line. That would, it'd still produce some gusty winds, but you wouldn't have a tornado threat. Because it still looks a little jagged here, there's still that possibility of maybe a brief little spin up along that gust front of wind that's coming out with this rain. So we still have to keep our eyes on here. But Tracy, I kind of like what I'm seeing here, because there's nothing that's really tightened up too much that would indicate a tornado is imminent. But you just have to be aware that if you're out here towards Zion, Waukegan, North Chicago, down towards Lake Forest, you're going to get the winds to pick up, and there's an outside chance, it's a low chance, but there's an outside chance you could have a brief spin up tornado at least nearby as this line comes through.
And the Weather Service talked about that, how with this sort of setup, a lot of times there can be very little warning or a last minute warning that we do get with some of these little spin ups. But I did want to point out to you, and Larry's been talking about this line right here. So here's the leading edge from about Waukegan, and then it is almost moving in towards Shanahan. So if we time that out, and I'm showing you this because I want you to have an idea of when you can expect maybe some of those stronger wind gusts, they're coming our way, and we will continue to monitor the situation. Of course, we'll have all the updates for you on our newscasts beginning on ABC 7 News at 4 o'clock. Thank you for your attention, and we'll see you soon.
This has been an ABC 7 AccuWeather update from Eyewitness News.